Okay, and we are live, everyone. Welcome to the stream. We've got a fun locals today in vampire format. Vampire format, if you don't know, is the format around February 2004. Uh, and it's fun. It's like late DM era. Um, and I like it. It's a bit more aggressive than some of the other formats from around that time, but it's a good one. I think it is unique, or it feels unique among the other formats from the time, even though it's still got some of that DM flavor. It's a bit faster than DM normally is. So I like it. People seem to like it as well. So yeah, good stuff. But anyway, we got a locals today. We only have 3 people signed up so far. So I don't know if we're gonna get more than that. But it feels kind of awkward to start a locals with 3 people because then like one person gets such a big advantage. So I'm gonna give it like 5 more minutes to actually see if we get one more person here. I mean, it's kind of awkward timing. I couldn't do it yesterday because doing a locals on Easter seemed kind of weird, so I just did it today. Um, but yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. But let's see if we get one more person here. Let's see. Yeah, I'll give 5 more minutes. Yeah, Prada, you're exactly right. Things really vamp up during this time. I mean, Vampire format is the last format before Chaos format where things really go off the rails. So yeah, that's very true. Yeah, let's go, Prada. They're jumping in. Okay, cool. So we will get 4 people. I'm gonna add them to the tourney. I'm sure their deck will be fine, but uh, if they could send it to me, that will just be good. I'll just check it over and just make sure that there's nothing weird with it. But yeah, okay, cool. So once Prada's signed up, we'll get this thing started with 4 players here, and should be fun. I'm looking forward to this. It's been a while since I've shown off Vampire, and yeah, it should be fun to dive back into it. At the end of the stream as well, I think I'm gonna just spin a wheel to see what the next locals will be. So it'll be a fun way to end the stream. Uh, and yeah, so stay tuned for that as well. But there should be some good gameplay going on here. Good DM era gameplay. I'm excited to start on the 5Ds era though in my regular coverage, so that'll be fun. I get some Teledad to do. BLS is at 0, unfortunately. Yeah, no cards from IOC right now. But DD Warrior is at 3 copies. That's kind of wild. Yeah, Torrential Tribute's at 3 copies as well, which a lot of people are kind of shocked by when they go back to the DM era, and they're like, wow, Torrential Tribute was like not just limited on release, but yeah, I mean, Torrential Tribute, in the early days, it was sort of more balanced, I think. And it's kind of like Miraforge, it's a card that you can play around if you want to. And yeah, so you're not going to use it all the time as well, because sometimes you'll have a monster on field that you don't want to lose, so it's definitely a powerful card, don't get me wrong. Like, it does see play in a lot of decks, but it was not limited there. But yeah, yeah, Torrential Tribute is kind of necessary as well, as Prada says. Like, I think it's a good balancing, and this format is very aggressive, so it's good just to stop your opponent from getting too aggressive. Um, but yeah, so we'll be getting a thing started shortly. I could show off a like vampire list here if I go into my deck list here. You can see all these different decks. It would be. Do I just have a regular vampire list? I might not. I might have overwrote that with something else, but uh, yeah, I don't know. There's vampires like pretty standard, but apparently I don't have a standard list. You can play Archfiends. Archfiends is fun. That's like a neat sort of rogue deck that you can play. You can play for other rogue decks. I think that like a skill drain deck could be good. Zombie drain is one thing you can do. I like sort of like goblin drain instead, where like you play goblin attack force, giant orcs, things like that, along with like final attack orders and skill drain. I think skill drain decks can be good just because they stop like DD Warrior Lady, and DD Warrior Lady is at 3, so it makes it very good. But this is kind of a cool sort of list here, just getting really aggressive. And yeah, so I think skill drain decks could work. So we got a Tsukiyomi loop deck. We're trying to loop like Time Seal. This deck was not good. I will say that now. Yeah, this deck's just bad. Like, it's fine. Like, you can do stuff with it, but like the gimmick is not worth doing. So yeah, that was not good. Speaking of bad gimmicks, we also have like Exodia Necros, which is a fun sort of thing to play for the channel, but wasn't really that good. Elma FDK as well was here, which I actually think this is like a decent version of the deck. It's just not really that good, right? Like, it's fine, but it's just not good, if that makes sense. There's no reload in this format because that came out in Invasion of Chaos, I'm pretty sure. So you can't really do that with this, so makes it kind of tricky there. Definitely not a tier 0 threat. And there is also there's Scientist FDK that you can also play, but it's also not really that consistent here. There's Burn as well. You can play Panda Burn. Yeah, so just DM me your list, Prada. Yeah, there's no like challenge tournament for it, or there's no Retrobot tournament for it. Yeah, so just send me your list and I'll look it over. I won't show it off on stream, obviously, but I'll look it over and then make sure that's legal, and then we will get this party started. Yeah. So yeah, generally, like I didn't want to sort of mess up the current tournament going on that we have on the Discord server, where if you want to join in locals or future tournaments, head on over there. Links in the description down below. But yeah, it should be fun. All the tournaments are always fun. I have a good time with them. And yeah, I'm enjoying the current Teledad tournament. I might show off some tournament games in my sort of first video on Teledad. So that should be fun. Yeah, we're doing early Vampire, Janjo. Yeah, I got stuff to do later tonight, so unfortunately I can't do it later. But we're doing some Vampire, so Vampire is fun. So yeah, we got 4 so far. And yeah, we might get a 5th actually, but we'll have to see. I feel like 4 is a good number, or at least it's a better number than like 3. Okay, that looks good to me. I can't see anything that would be incorrect here. So, yep, looks good. Yeah. Okay, that is going well. Okay, and it looks like we get 5 people. So we're going to have a 5-person locals. I mean, I don't hate that. I don't hate a 5-person locals. I think a 5-person locals is not bad. I also like that the person who is the 5th joining is going to be Clody, who was summoned by the talk of FTKs. So, yeah. So we're going to add Clody, and then we'll be good to go. Yeah. Yeah, so things should be starting soon. Don't worry. We'll be getting to some great gameplay going on. Let's see. We could potentially put up a game while we're sort of waiting here. Let's see. Let's mute that. I don't know what they're playing, but okay, Clody sent me a list. I'm just gonna check over that list real quick. Let's see. Are all these legal? I believe they are all legal. Yes. Yep. Okay. There we go. Looks good. And now we have our people. So I'm going to shuffle the seeds twice. I always do 2 shuffles to see what happens there. And now we're going to get this party started. So I'll start. I'm going to send the link here to here. There we go. There we go. Good luck, everyone. And now we're going to hop on over to DB, see what people are doing. But first, let's actually check the bracket. Looks like Clody has a bye here, so they're going to face the winner of Dump Truck and Prada. And Jim Bob and Megamuffin are also facing off there. So we got 2 games to check in on. And we, whoops, not right click. Yeah. So we'll see them soon, whenever they start to, go up. But yeah, why are the I didn't know. Kesha joined, like, tried to join, like, 1 second too late. Jeez. Yeah, that's rough. I mean, we could just add them. I don't know. It's, I did ping. I pinged people, but unfortunately it was a bit too late. So, uh, yeah, we'll just have it at 5. I mean, Ketcha could face off against Clody. Yeah, I don't know. We could maybe add them. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Yeah. I think it's probably fine if we add Kesha in, just to make it so that way it's like not quite as much of a buy. I mean, this does give Jim Bob plus Wagmuffin like a bit of a luckier bracket there, but it essentially turns out the same way, you know. Speaking of Jim Bob and Wagmuffin, let's just do that. Yeah, I'll just add them. I'll if they're willing to do it, if they still want to play, then I will add them to the event. Because we've just started, so it's like not really that big of a deal. Yeah. They'll just need to send me their list. But yeah. Okay, we got Wagmuffin versus Jim Bob here. Harpies Feather Duster for 1. Okay. Clody is hosting just in case. So Don Zalud comes down, attacks in for 14. And okay, it looks like they will not play, indeed. So looks like Clody still gets the lucky bracket. Don Zalud attacking in, ripping a card out of the hand. That's an MST. So it's kind of funny, like how much spell trap removal has already been removed. But yeah, so MST gone. MST's at 3 copies as well. So actually, that was a very good hit for Wagmuffin there, because the MST would have been able to deal with that Mirage there. And it looks like Jim Bob did not have another MST there to stop the Mirage. So yeah, that will just go through, and they'll draw a fair amount of cards there. Breaker coming down, so Breaker probably not going to pop the Mirage, but it could pop something else and then hit into the Dawn. No Trap Hole, no TT, no Bottomless there used on the Breaker, but MST is being used to pop that Mirage, so not necessarily the card you want to get rid of with the Breaker, but it still will hit over the Dawn and get rid of that, so that will be less of a threat here in the future. Jim Bob going to set 2 of their own now that Harpies is gone. Wouldn't it be funny if that last card is a Heavy Storm? That'd be kind of wild, but it looks like, well, I don't know. It's probably not a Heavy Storm, or else they would have just fired it at the start of the main phase, right? But they are going to set 1, and they're just going to, are they going to set more? Or are they just going to set the 1 and pass? They might set the 1 and pass. That is something that they could potentially do. I don't know. Okay, they're going to set another back row and pass. That makes sense. Harpies does punish this, but yeah, it's if Heavy is in rotation for Jim Bob, they don't really want to activate Heavy into this board. So yeah, Harpies I think is I don't like Harpies being in formats. I think it's like it's not a card that like irks me as much as something like Dushoot, for instance, but it is a card that I don't necessarily like as much, because basically when like Heavy Storms in a format, there's some balance where like, oh, okay, you know, you maybe have some back row, or your opponent has some back row. So it's like, okay, if they want to use Heavy here, they've got to get rid of their own back row or use it up somehow. So I can potentially commit into this, and you can sort of like play around the Heavy a bit better than you can play around like a Duster, because Hardy Feather Duster just wipes out all of your opponent's back row for no cost of your own. So it's like, it's just a little bit less skill intensive in terms of like reading things and like, you know, all that stuff. So, but the DD Warrior Lady is going to attack in for 15. That's going to get wrong. So it's going to drop down both players by 1,500. The Exiled Force being used to get rid of the Breaker is probably a good trade for Jim Bob there. Oh, well, then again, maybe not that as good a trade, because the Coffee is able to rip away that Spy. But still, you know, they're in top deck mode now, which is not really a spot you want to be in this format. But Heartbeat Feather Duster is used up. Some decks don't even play Heavy, so that's also something to keep in mind, where like Jim Bob might be fine here. And Jig's Imperial is going to be a bit brutal, though. That's going to come down attack in for 3,400 potentially, but the Sakuretsu armor will protect Jim Bob, and Wagman will pass back to Jim Bob. Now, I think something that you might notice in this format is that like there's a lot of 1-for-1 trades going on, a lot of aggression as well. Both players are down pretty low pretty quickly, and that's sort of like the hallmarks of this format in my opinion. And yeah, Ian Miguel says, "Oh look, Twilight format. Where are the wolves?" Yeah, there's no wolf archetype in this format, unfortunately. I think Twin-Headed Wolf is a wolf that's around right now. But yeah, unfortunately, no wolves running around. But we got a vampire that may or may not show up. Vampire Lord, while giving the name to the format, unfortunately does not really see much play. It has seen some experimentation in like zombie lists and things, but it has not really done the best. So yeah, even though this is Twilight format, with the vampires running around, they're not really running around on the field. They're just running around the backs of our heads, you know. But yeah, it'd be cool if there was like a werewolf archetype around this time or something, or a good werewolf. But unfortunately, it would be a while until we get decent wolves. Okay, it looks like Warrior Lead is going to banish that tribe. Again, Warrior Lead is at 3 copies, so that allows people to get really aggressive and just make even more 1-for-1 trades. Like 1-for-1 trades are sort of the name of the game of this format. If you can get a trade that's more than 1-for-1, then that's very good for you. Like a Torrential Tribute, for instance, is a very good trade. A lot of the time, if you can get more value out of it. Mirror Force, same deal. But because of that, you sort of have to play both aggressively and conservatively, where like you don't want to necessarily commit too much into things that your opponent might have, but you also want to make sure that you're constantly pressuring them. So it's an interesting balance. Interesting twists and turns here. Reborn for the Exiled, which is going to try and pop that set monster. We know the last card in hand is Sinister Serpent. So, you know, oh, hitting a Fiber Dart. Very, very good hit there. If it was like a Sangan or a Witch or something, then that would have been a bit worse for Jim Bob, but as is, that was a good hit. So they're going to go for Serpent here, which does imply that they've got like a Torrential Tribute in the back row there. That's the main reason why you summon out Serpent rather than keeping it in hand. Because 300 pokes are not really that good. But yeah, as Jan just said, no reset for you, and Fiber Jar is limited to 1. So we know that that set cannot be another Fiber Jar. Yeah, they're just going to switch the Serpent to defense. I think that makes sense. Pass back. Not committing the card in hand, so that implies that it might be a back row or might be something else. Warrior Lady is going to be very good here, but again, we sort of had the read that it was TT, and it looks like that TT will come down, hitting both Serpents here. Wyman will get back their Serpent, and then Jim Bob will presumably get back their Serpent on the following turn. But if a Kaiku was in the picture, then that could complicate things for sure. Although Kaiku is not really played as much as, oh my goodness, Graceful is going to be nasty here. Serpent is kind of an interesting card to play in a format like this, but I think it is very, very much worth it because, again, the format is very aggressive, but it is also very, very much about, like, you know, the trades that you make, and Serpent just makes it so that a lot of your trades end up a lot better for you, right? And just enhances the quality of things like Graceful Charity, Mirage Nightmare, Tri-Infecting Virus. There's so much good stuff that Serpent enhances here. And they're going to pitch a Dark Hole, which means that the hand must be pretty cracked. Premature Burial here, paying 8 to bring back a monster. And they are very low. They're at 1,400. Ring of Destruction has been used up from Jim Bob, though. So, you know, Wyman did not need to worry about that. But they're just going to pre-map for the Warrior Lady attack in for 15. And will that go through? It looks like it will go through. And they're going to set 1. Maybe set another? Or just pass back? No, just pass back. Okay, I think that makes sense. No need to really commit too much here. No Duster's been used up from Jim Bob, so a Duster would go pretty crazy here. Serpent's kind of an interesting thing here because, like, you could set the Serpent and then they could potentially banish it with Warrior Lady, but if they banish it with Warrior Lady, like, it gets the monster off the field. So, like, do you care if they banish it with Warrior Lady? I don't quite know. That's something that Jim Bob... Well, actually, we know it's Serpent now, so yeah. So, there's an argument to keeping the last spell trap in hand to bluff, like, oh, maybe it's not Serpent, but it looks like they are just going to, you know, reveal it all. They're just going to be like, nope, it is indeed Serpent. Breaker going to come down, potentially pop that new back row, I would assume. They could also pop the old back row, but the new one's more likely to be something big. And they're going to pop a Dark Hole. Oh, I would have... Ooh, unless that says Mirror Force. Okay, it is Mirror Force. Okay, I was going to say, unless that says Mirror Force, I would have kept the Dark Hole in hand. But that was a good read on Jim Bob, that they set the Dark Hole to bait out that Breaker activation. And while Dark Hole is very powerful, if you can use something in your opponent's battle phase to prevent them from actually doing stuff with that, then that is generally a bit better. So, we know the last card in hand is Serpent. Oh my god. Oh, geez. Duster. It's brutal there. Io getting flipped up, so that will stop the Duster. Io basically a better Solemn Judgment a lot of the time in this format, but the Serpent will get flipped up, attacking for 3. We know that Magamuffin has a Serpent and 1 Unknown in hand. They've got 2 back row there. Rhoda's going to be very good here. You can go Rhoda potentially just for Warrior Lady to banish the Serpent. You can also go Rhoda for Warrior Lady just to stick on field. I personally would probably just stick it on field, but then you potentially run into Snatch Steal or Change of Heart killing you. So it really depends on what the back row is. If the back row is defensive, I would banish here. If the back row is not defensive, I would maybe not. But it looks like they are going to leave it on field, and Jim Bob will grab back that Serpent. Will they get a Change of Heart or Snatch Steal, potentially threaten lethal? Will they get something else to potentially threaten lethal? What will they do? They're just going to set 1, set 2, so we know that that is a Serpent there, and they're going to pass back to Wagamuffin. Very intense games. I mean, this is why Vampire format's so fun, in my opinion, just because it's so back and forth, edge of your seat, anything can happen at any time. And it is a blast. Okay, Serpent coming down here because that can attack over Jim Bob's Serpent very easily. And it looks like it will indeed attack over Jim Bob's Serpent. Warrior Lady attacking in, and that will indeed connect. Okay, very interesting stuff there. So it seems like that set card is a bluff. They're going to add back their Serpent in the standby phase, and now they're in a tricky spot because Wagamuffin potentially has lethal on board. It looks like they're just going to set 1. That seems like the end of the game to me because, you know, we know that they weren't able to stop this attack last turn, or at least they chose not to, but I feel like I definitely would have used up a Sakuretsu armor or something like that if I had it last turn. But yeah, to me, this is the end of the game. But you go for this play either way. Oh, they're going to go for Yada as well. That's so funny. Just revealing that they've got it. I maybe wouldn't have even revealed that I had Yada. Okay, it looks like they've got the Spy, so it's not quite the end of the game because Spy will be able to bring in another Spy. So they will be able to wall up here, and now Wagamuffin's in a bit worse of a spot than they were before. They could potentially banish that 1 Spy if they've got like 1-for-1 removal on the Spy there, then that could be good. Yeah, it's a bit tricky here. I don't quite know what I would do. It really depends on the spell traps that you got. Right now, I mean, you're not losing the game because you can switch the Serpent to defense. Yada will go back to hand. So, like, it's not quite the end of the world, but it is definitely a tricky spot to be in here for sure. Spy is just so good in these formats, and they're just going to sit on it. Leave it at that here. So, Jim Bob hoping to stabilize a little bit here. Wagamuffin setting a card. Both players at 600 life points, by the way. So, both players are very, very low. The game could end at basically any moment, and that's part of what makes this so exciting. Jim Bob going to set 1. And are they going to potentially attack into a Fiber Jar? No, they are not. They're just going to leave it at this. Choosing not to attack, I think that makes a lot of sense because you're so low that, like, if you switch 1 Spy to attack and attack in, then Wagamuffin could just attack you directly and kill you with the Warrior Ladies and things like that. TT here, flip something that Witch of the Black Forest to trigger it, and then get a full board wipe, getting a search off the Witch as well. So you can search out something that can actually attack in and kill. Sangan is going to be the search that you go for. Sangan coming down, that will be met with a TT of Jim Bob's own. So now Wagamuffin will get another search here. So they are getting value off this, but again, this format is very, very tempo based. If they don't have a way to stop Jim Bob's aggressive push here next turn, then they will potentially be losing this match, or losing this game at least. Pot of Greed's going to be very good here. We know there's no IO from Wagamuffin there, so Jim Bob will be able to draw 2. And they are in a very interesting spot. They could potentially win the game here. They potentially get a little bit more defensive if they feel like they might not be able to push through Wagamuffin's back row. And it looks like they are going to be a little bit more defensive here, saying that back row is a bit too scary for me. You've gone through 2 TTs, so there's 1 TT remaining potentially if they are playing the 3. But there's also Mirror Force remaining. There's a lot of different things remaining, so it's a bit tricky here. Jim Bob is winning in terms of deck out. So if the game does go to deck out, Jim Bob is in a good spot. These games very rarely go to deck out, though, because of Fiber Jar, and because Wagamuffin has not used up a Fiber Jar yet, it does mean that they could still have that. So Jim Bob going to set another, and are they going to just pass back? Are they going to go for something? They're going to go for a Mirage here and pass back to Wagamuffin. The fact that they did not commit another card from hand might mean that that card is not Serpent, and that the set monster is Serpent. So these are the sort of reads that you have to go for here. And you got to figure out, like, okay, do I bet it all that that's the Serpent? Do I not? But yeah, Jim Bob drawing 3 here. They may also be holding on to Serpent here because it does sort of lessen the downside of Mirage of Nightmare if you have to use that downside. But I don't know. I maybe would have committed the Serpent if Serpent was in hand, just because then you're more likely to draw into MST to pop your own Mirage. It really does depend on what the hand is and what the back row is. So, yeah, it's a very interesting board state. Wagamon setting another and setting another, passing back. Jim Bob is going to draw here. Do they have an out to the Mirage? It looks like they do not. Oh, they do not have an out to Mirage. That is rough, potentially, here. Let's see. Wagamon's going to choose those two to keep, so that means the three close to the deck are going to be gone here, losing an Exiled, a Yada, and a Witch. Honestly, not the worst things to lose if you're Jim Bob, in my opinion. A Graceful Charity here is going to be very good. Drawing 3, pitching 2. Of course, if they still have the Serpent in hand, then obviously you'd want that to get hit with Mirage. But if you can't have that, I think those 3 were perfectly fine to lose. I think Witch is probably the most impactful of those right there. But yeah, Jim Bob's still in a decent spot. Although now they are lower in deck than Wagamuffin is. So now that's a bit tricky, especially because Wagamuffin has the 1 remaining Fiber Jar left. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. But the fact that they did not discard a Serpent there means that they definitely have that Serpent set there, right? Yeah, Yada was dead anyways. Exactly, Janjo. So Yada was dead, which it could have been fine to search out something, but like, you know, do you really need to be searching things out at this point when you've gone through pretty much all of your deck? Exiled Force could have potentially set something up into whatever monsters Wagamuffin had, but yeah, it's just rough. Are they gonna... Okay, the MST does come down. It's gonna get rid of Mirage, but now Wagamuffin's at 8 cards in deck. Jim Bob's at 5. Even if it doesn't go to life points being the determining factor here, Wagamuffin can just sit on this being like, I've got too much stuff here for you to actually eat through, so I'm just going to leave it at this. And you know, if you make a push, I've got back row for it. If you don't make a push, you're losing the deck out. So you're going to lose either way here. I've got this sort of situation on checkmate, you know. And that's a very tough situation for Jim Bob to be in. There's actually arguments that Mirage is not the right pick, or not the right choice, that is, for Jim Bob here. Just because you don't want to go lower in deck than Wagamuffin potentially. But, I mean, we'll have to see. You could also argue that, like, if Wagamuffin ever did get into a Fiber Jar, then it just would have been the end of the game for Jim Bob, so they had to do something to try and get aggressive here. But Rhoda going to come down. Rhoda's going to search out a Warrior, specifically the DD Warrior Lady. And Warrior Lady will come down, so they are summing that thing out. Trap Hole will meet it, so Trap Hole will kill the Warrior Lady without blowing up the whole board. So, yeah, and as Janjo said, it's a gamble card, so it is tough to say whether that should have been done or not. But it looks like it will have been done. And call for the Warrior Lady. They're getting aggressive here. They got to take a risk at this point, so I do understand why they're doing this. They're going to attack into a Yatagarasu, so that's a dead Yatagarasu. Just Wagamuffin body blocking here at this point. And Jim Bob going to set 1 pass back. Now, no Raigeki has been used by Jim Bob, I believe. Oh, Raigeki is in grave. Okay, so I guess they did use Raigeki or it got pitched earlier. But, yeah, so they don't have a way to actually eat through all those monsters there. MST on one of the back row. It will hit an MST. I don't think MSTs can be changed the turn they're set in this format. That changed a bit earlier. So it was like that at the beginning of when quick play spells were out, but that changed in Yada. Yep. So yeah. So it's not the ruling right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it changed in Yada, because Yada was when a lot of like weird early DM rulings got like really straightened out. Oh, the Forceful Sentry on the Pot of Greed, which was not activated because you don't want to draw deeper into the deck. So that's very funny there. But you do what you have to do sometimes. Sangan getting flipped up as well. This is a bit risky because if you attack into Warrior Lady, then you're in kind of a tough spot. But Sangan will get trapped hold, which if Jim Bob does have a target left in deck for the Sangan, then that is going to be that's going to be potentially kind of tough here. Magician of Faith is a very, very good one, though, to have, because Magician of Faith will be able to get back something like Raigeki, right? So, do you really attacking into that Serpent? It's a bit tricky. I might banish that Serpent, honestly, but if you can go Magician of Faith for the Raigeki, I guess that's what you're aiming for. So, yeah. It's a bit tricky here. Wagamuffin also might not have committed a Fiber Jar to board as well. Pot of Greed is drawn off the top after getting shuffled back. Damn, Dumbtruck just got FDK'd. Brutal. Oh, did the Prada and Dumbtruck game end, or did it just oof, that's rough sometimes. Change of Heart though on the Magician of Faith, so that's gonna be very good. And Io's gonna get chained to that, so that's gonna stop the Chain of Heart. Damn. I mean, that game might have wrapped up already, but like this game's been still in game one, going pretty strong, and it's just such an insane series of moves here. Great stuff all around. It's just such a good game. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, it looks like Dumbtruck won against Prada. And so I can put that into the challenge after this game wraps up, because I want to have this game on screen for as long as it's around, you know. Io will drop now because, you know, they don't have the life points to pay for it either way. Magician of Faith getting back probably a Raigeki here. Duster instead. Okay, that is an interesting choice. They're going to go Duster on the back row. I guess if you get in one attack here, then you do win the game. And if you don't have a way to stop like Mirror Force, you do kind of need to do this. So this is quite an interesting turn of events here. Does Wagamuffin have a response is the question. Let's see what power cards Jim Bob's used up. Have they used up Monster Reborn? They've not used up Monster Reborn. That is a big one here. So Monster Reborn will probably come in very clutch here. And we know they've got 0 cards in deck, so we know they've got to have something. Servant of Capitalism for game. That would be crazy if Servant of Capitalism came down. Or like any of the direct attackers like Jinzo number 7. But I don't think Jinzo number 7 has enough attack. But Servant of Capitalism, I think, definitely does. Oh my goodness, this is just insane. What is Wagamuffin going to do here? What does Wagamuffin have, potentially? Okay, everything must go. So, I guess the decision there was, do you Ring of Destruction the Warrior Lady and cause a draw? That's the question, right? And you could potentially also Ring of Destruction the Magician of Faith and say, now you don't have the monsters to actually get through this. But I think that Jim Bob probably does, because we know about the Reborn there. Yeah, and Change of Heart is also coming down. So I think, honestly, if I was Wagamuffin, I would have rung the Warrior Lady, because I feel like Jim Bob would have had a way to get through this. But I guess the question is, does Wagamuffin have something that can wall up? Well, actually, it doesn't even matter if they can wall up, because the Warrior Ladies are going to attack and banish both. One of these is probably going to be the Serpent. And yeah, it's just going to be the end of the game for Wagamuffin. Crazy, crazy game there. And it could have ended in a draw, too. So that would have been wild. Let's jump into the other one real quick, if that is still going. Looks like it is indeed still going. So Blondie winning the first game, going into the second one here. Yeah, I would have rung for Warrior Lady probably. Just, yeah, as Janjo says, like, mopping for Harpies is kind of sus. So it means that, like, they probably have something there to do. But yeah, card destruction coming down here. Pitching 5, drawing 5. Pitching some cards from Dumbtruck's hand as well. Very good ones as well. But yeah, pitching not really good ones from QB Blondie's hand. They are pitching a Scientist, though, so that's in rotation. If they draw into the Reborn or if they draw into the Premat, they can bring that back, because QB Blondie is on Scientist at FDK. So, you know, yeah, they will be able to potentially pull that off. Although I will say it's a bit tougher when, well, actually, it doesn't really matter that the 800 happened there. I potentially, if I was Dumbtruck, I would have gained the 12. Because the 800 doesn't change the math, because you still have 7 times to pay with Scientists, but the 1200 definitely does change the math on actually getting a lethal line. That's an Offerings to the Doomed. I think Offerings to Doomed, it's not my favorite card. I think in certain formats, it can be decent for just sort of clearing potential threats. I think if you're playing an FDK deck, like, I can understand it, right? Because, like, you don't really need to play the game in a way that other decks do. But I think that, oh yeah, if you're playing Reckless as well, it's obviously very good. But yeah, ooh, we finally get Maiden in Love from GX. That's fun. Io coming down, and yeah, that probably will be the end of the FDK deck's chances here, because FDK decks kind of need to use their spell cards. So yeah, kind of a thing there. Gillisaurus getting specialed, so that will enable Dump Truck to special something out from their graveyard here. They still get the special. Whether they choose to or not will be... Okay, looks like it won't even matter because Clody's going to scoop it up. Let's put in Dump Truck winning against Prada, going in against Clody. And yeah, I mean, FTK games, they're going to be quick one way or another, right? I don't really think FTKs are the best in this format. I think they're not really that good, but Clody is an FTK enthusiast, so they're going to play that in whatever format they can possibly play it in, right? And so we'll have to see how they do in a tournament where you only necessarily have to play 2 games to win. We'll have to see if they're able to actually win the locals or not. But yeah, TT coming down on that Warrior Lady. Damn, this is... The Jim Bob and Wagamuffin games have just been so intense. And then we dive back into the other one. It's FTK shenanigans. The duality of man, you know. But Warrior Lady coming down from Wagamuffin here, trying to attack into Jim Bob's 3 back row. It looks like Saku will be used to clear that out of the way. And, yeah, Wagamuffin passing back to Jim Bob here. Oh, let's go Golden Egg Witch. The classic from the GX episode with the guy who drew cards from the waterfall. Yeah, GX was a time. I like GX a lot. I think it was very, very fun in terms of the anime. It was just a blast. Very different from the original series, so I understand why some people like it less, but I think it's a great time in its own right. It does its own thing. Kind of like an official abridged series, which is kind of neat as well. So, yeah, it's just good. Reborn is going to bring back Jim Bob's Warrior Lady there. Maybe they had the MST in hand. You generally wouldn't do this. I mean, if you get your own call or you're just trying to keep your call online for later, then that's fine. But, like, the risk is if Jim Bob has Call the Haunted, they can sort of just fade the Reborn. So it's not necessarily something you want to go for. But I guess this does clear away 2 cards from Jim Bob's side of things. So I guess it makes some sense why you would do that. But, yeah, Mirror Force wiping out Wagamuffin's monster there. Wagamuffin setting another, passing back to Jim Bob. What is Jim Bob's set, do we think? Might be Spy, but if it's Spy, do you care about Warrior Lady attacking into it? Maybe you do. I probably would have held the Mirror Force if it was Spy. So I feel like the set might be like Sinister Serpent. I think that's a good choice. Breaker coming down to clear that last back row. Last back row might be fake because Mirage is been used already. So, yeah, the GX manga was a bit of a letdown. Honestly, I find a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh mangas to be let down, except for the original. Just because, like, it's its own story that generally comes out after the anime. I generally like what the anime does a little bit better. Interesting. Okay, it's a Spy. I had to read those Serpent. It seems like Wagamuffin did too, but it looks like it will be Spy, so Wagamuffin's going to get a little bit punished for that play, but I do think that play made sense. You got to get aggressive in this format sometimes, and I don't hate doing that. But if I was Jim Bob, I might have just saved the Mirror Force for a more aggressive play here. Yeah. And Warrior Lady attacking in to the Serpent, banishing both, and that's going to be brutal for Wagamuffin there. Janger says GX felt rushed, like they were building something that never happened. Yeah, that's another thing too. A lot of times the mangas have to end prematurely because they're going to the next anime. And so you got to wrap up the manga because we got to get the next spin-off manga, you know, up and running. So, yeah. Tribe is going to be pretty good here. However, Tribe is a bit awkward because it pops your own breaker. So that's a bit rough, but you still get in for 1,600. Pop both Spies, and that's not terrible. Of course, with Serpent gone now, things have gotten even worse for Wagamuffin here. So, yeah, Wagamuffin's in kind of not the best spot. And they're losing the life point game as well. So Jim Bob has higher life points, which does matter a lot of the time. Yeah. Premat here is going to bring back... What's it going to bring back? Maybe Scientist? Maybe Warrior Lady? A couple different choices. It looks like they're going to bring back the Warrior Lady there. And TT is going to be used on that. So TT is going to wipe out the field and hit Jim Bob's own Serpent there. So Serpent will be able to come back. So Jim Bob just getting so much value here. Yeah, it's not looking good for Wagamuffin. They don't add back the Serpent, so maybe a little bit of a misplay there. But they're in such a good spot, it might not even matter. Dark Hole on the set. But see, that's why you add back the Serpent, because then there's the idea for Wagamuffin, like, is it the Serpent? Is it not the Serpent? You know, what do I do here? But they're going to go for a Yada attack in for 2. And Jim Bob scoops it up. They didn't have to scoop it up there because you get back the Serpent, set the Serpent, and then that walls off the Yada for a turn. They can still clear the Serpent through other means, but with that Serpent in rotation, you at least get one more draw. So yeah, I think Jim Bob scooped it up prematurely, but I think they just forgot about the Serpent. So that does happen sometimes. But yeah, let's see what Dump Truck and Give You Blondie are doing. It looks like that game wrapped up. Okay, it looks like Clody lost to Dump Truck. Again, as I mentioned, I don't think that, these FTK decks are like the best things in the world in this format. But it did win one game off them. So, and also, again, as I always say with FTK decks, what matters is just getting in repetitions with the deck and, just getting as many data sets as possible, right? Just getting as much data out there on it. So, like, it's all about just seeing how many games you win, how many games you lose, getting that win-loss ratio there. Yeah. So it's tough to say. But Jano says, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has plenty of broken cards. What's one more? I agree. What's one more added to the pile? Maybe just one more as a treat. One more broken card. Just a little treat, But Mirage coming down, turn 1 for Jim Bob, and Jim Bob will be drawing 3 off this Mirage if Wyman did not have the MST. And it looks like that will indeed be fine. Okay, so they are going to draw the 3. I think a lot of the times people also, I will point this out as well. I think a lot of times people, bring up the DM era formats as like a bit less skill intensive as other formats, where like you just play a bunch of power cards and then, everything's just so broken that you don't really need to worry about playing skillfully and all that stuff. But I think that these games definitely show that skill is involved. I think that Muffin could potentially drawn the first game as opposed to losing it. And I think that Jim Bob could have potentially staved off defeat in the second game as opposed to, admitting defeat to a Yatalock that was not locking. So, not saying that either of these players are bad because they're both very good. I mean, you don't get a game like the first one if you don't have 2 very skilled players. But even skilled players can make slight mistakes that can end up you losing them the game. And I think that is part of what makes this era so cool. I think it's a very fun feature of it. And, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think that people should give these formats a try if they have not already, and don't let the sort of idea of just broken cards being in the format dissuade you, because every format has its broken cards. And as Jan just said, what's one more broken card? If you're used to playing with 5 broken cards in a format, what's the 6th? What's the 7th, etc. Yeah, and honestly, as Jan just says, it's like a mirror match with power cards, which does make it somewhat fairer in some regards, and I do agree with that. I think that, like, if you know what your opponent has and you know what you have and you've played the mirror match a lot, like, it does mean that you can sort of play around potential things that your opponent might, have or not have, etc. And I think we saw that in the last game, especially because, like, at the end of the game, we could sort of figure out exactly what Jim Bob's hand was, where we knew they had changed of heart, we knew they had reborn, we knew like a fair amount of what they had because they'd gone through their entire deck. So yeah, the Morganite cards are cool. Like, they'd be pretty broken, I think, in early Yu-Gi-Oh. Nowadays, kind of cool to see, like, as Jane just said, it's kind of like a new rule. It just changed the way that the game plays. And I think it's cool. I think it's cool having cards like that. I think they're always interesting. So, yeah. Looks like we're at another standby phase. What will happen here? Will Bob's Mirage be destroyed? Will Jim Bob's Mirage be destroyed? It looks like neither will be destroyed. So Jim Bob going to draw 4, and Mike Muffin's going to discard 4, leave 1. So, yeah, it's going to be, oof. Yeah, Serpent will lessen the blow a bit, but for Jim Bob, you probably would have wanted to pick that one Serpent if you knew where it was. Why am I choosing not to add back the Serpent? That's kind of interesting. Generally, you want to add that back. But they might have a monster in hand, so they might want to draw the max that they can next turn. So if they've got a monster in hand, it makes sense to leave the Serpent in grave and just save it for next turn. So it depends. Have I seen the new animation that came out? Skyfire Chronicles released its first episode. Very cool. I'll check it out. I have been looking forward to the new Yu-Gi-Oh anime that they're making, just because, like, it's something that I feel like fans have been waiting for quite a long time. So yeah, I'll check it out. But I feel like, honestly, I love the Yu-Gi-Oh animes a lot. I really want a Magic Gathering anime. I feel like Magic Gathering, like, the fact that they've not made a, like, show or cartoon or something out of Magic Gathering lore is just mind-boggling to me. They made novels, they made comic books, they made a lot of stuff that's really good. But for some reason, they haven't made a show. And I think it would go hard. I think, like, It'd be very good. It'd get people into the game as well. So I know it's a Yu-Gi-Oh channel, but like, listen, Magic is also a fun game, and Magic's got some great lore as well. Hello, Dark Magician. Long time no see as well, but glad to have you on the stream. Magician of Faith grabbing back a Graceful, which will then also be able to pitch the Serpent, and it's just going to get really good for Jim Bob here. But yeah. Yeah, there is a Magic the Gathering manga, but the Magic the Gathering manga also isn't based on the lore. The Magic the Gathering manga is based on people playing the game back in the 90s, which it's a very good manga. Highly recommend if you can find it. But it also isn't really like exactly what I'm thinking of, where I'm thinking of like, oh, you don't necessarily want to see the Harpies on that Mirage there. I mean, maybe Jim Bob just like, I need to prevent Wagamama from getting even more advantage here, but if I'd be Wagamama, I'd be very scared here. But I think that's not Serpent because Serpent was pitched, but yeah, honestly, Konami not taking advantage of their lore enough. I agree, Prada. Which is why I'm glad they're doing this new sort of anime. I hope that it's successful, and I hope that, you know, they continue doing more of it, because there's a lot of great lore in Yu-Gi-Oh! That has just not been shown off. So it'd be very cool if it actually did get shown off. But seems like we got a really intense one again, which is always really fun to see. I mean, Jim Bob Wagamama, this is like a matchup for the ages. Like, I don't know, they're just crazy here. They're going back and forth, like, so intense. Oh, so good. Graceful coming down. Will that go through? Jim Bob thinking about it. I feel like if you got IOs, now's a good time for it. Looks like IO will indeed come down. So I'll stop the Graceful there. Prevent that from drawing Wagamuffin some more cards. I'm thinking. They're doing thonkin. Breaker coming down. Breaker can pop the IO if you want to pop that. It could also pop one of the other back row here. And it looks like they will indeed break the IO. IO getting broken. Harpy Feather Duster coming down from Wagamama. This is good because I was gonna say I don't quite know what happens if an IO flips up after Mirage has been activated and then IO gets popped before it becomes the next standby phase. I don't know if the Mirage will then forgotten, like, having drawn the card to the previous standby phase or not. I don't know. But now we don't have to worry about it. So it is what it is. Wagamama, great reversal there. You'll just clear out all that back row, get over the Magician of Faith, deal a bit of damage as well. Comfy on the last card in Wagamuffin's hand, which I believe is known to be Serpent, so that's kind of weird. I would not have done that if I was Jim Bob. It seems like they just forgot, slipped their mind. But to be fair, there's a lot going on in these games, so it's easy to forget things. And as I say, I always say this, we're watching, they're playing, right? Like, there's a lot of difference between watching without the pressure of actually being like, oh, you know, I need to win this or not. Versus actually playing and being like, oh my goodness, like, I need to think about all these different things and I need to structure my plays in this way and all that stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah, IO was already broken. Well, IO, you know, it can get even more broken, you know. Knock on these Spies, so it's going to get those Spies out of the deck. Very, very good hit for Wagamama there. Very good to bring in the Knock. I assume they brought that in because we didn't see it game one. And I feel like Knock isn't necessarily a main deck card in this format. There's just so much powerful stuff, and people are playing so aggressively that it doesn't necessarily come up all the time. But Knock very good against Spies, and that will indeed get rid of those Spies. Jim Bob in kind of tough spot. Now, their deck has been thinned out a little bit from those Spies, so that's kind of nice. But at the same time, you probably want to be drawing Spies around this point, you know? So kind of rough there. Setting and attacking into a Serpent. While I'm getting back that Serpent here, you just keep setting it over and over and over again. If Jim Bob doesn't have a way to deal with this, then they potentially will run into deck out, but Fiber Jar kind of prevents that a bit more. So Fiber Jar, I think, is generally a good thing in these formats. I know that people don't like it because it takes a lot to actually, like, shovel everything back into the deck. It resets the game, etc., etc. But I think it is a skill testing card. I think that it, like, leads to interesting game states, and it prevents things from snowballing too much. I think that's also something that, like, a lot of complaints, I think, about, like, modern formats. Like, part of it's the pace of play, sure. But another is, like, if you manage to get that board set up, like the board that your opponent just can't crack, then you're kind of just win, right? Like, you've reached a point where, like, your opponent can't do anything to actually stop it a lot of the times. And, of course, you know, there's a balance of, like, board breakers and things like that. But I think, you know, I think people feel like when you reach a point where the game is just over and you know you can't really do anything, it's kind of demoralizing. Fiber Jar gives you another option there to potentially get out of that situation. So I think it's good. But yeah, as Jando says as well, more cards equals longer games equals me happy. And it makes me happy too. So I am very happy about that. And that Raigeki going to hit a Sangan and the Serpent. So pretty good for Wagamuffin, I think, overall. But this does mean that Jim Bob can get a bit aggressive here. So, yeah. I mean, I will say, like, also, a nice thing about playing online is that we're not really playing in tournaments that have time rules. Like, this Locals does not have time rules. It's not like I'm going to call time at a certain point and we're going to tally up, who has the least life points and they lose or whatever. We're just playing until the games wrap up, no matter how long that is. And so, like, that also makes it so that a longer game is a bit better. But in an official tournament setting, if you've got, like, only half an hour on the clock to play your entire match, then Fiber Jar could definitely be a little bit more frustrating. I definitely get that. It's just the format that we're playing in is a bit, more favorable for Fiber Jar, being a nicer card. Anyways, I'm going to send another passing back. Will we get to see a Fiber Jar here? Will we not? Servant getting added back to hand. Saying getting switched to defense. Witch getting switched to defense and passing back to Wagamuffin here. Now, what will Wagamuffin do? They got to think about this a bit. They're checking their graveyard. That could mean it's a Moth. Rhoda going to come down here. So Rhoda could get like Warrior Lady or something. Banish the Sangan or the Witch, potentially. I feel like Exile's not the move here. Dawn is getting searched out, so that's a bit scary for Jim Bob because it might mean that they've got like Raigeki or something here or Dark Hole. So, yeah, this is a bit tricky. Both players are pretty even life points, as a note, so that is important to say. Warrior Lady getting flipped up, and that will be fine by Jim Bob. Okay, Warrior Lady is going to attack into the Witch, and that's going to banish the Witch. Just get that out of there. I would have banished the Sangan, although Witch does have more attack and defense. So that is something, but like the reason why I might have hit the Sangan is because Sangan can search out a Warrior Lady, whereas Witch cannot. So, if we check the graveyard, only one Warrior Lady has been used up. They probably are playing all three. I slept in today because it's a holiday in Massachusetts. But, even with sleeping in, sometimes the yawn slipped through. This gameplay is great, though. So it's not due to the gameplay itself. It's just, how it is sometimes. I'm not sure I would have done the ring on the Sangan here, just because Jim Bob now has the priority to do what they want with the Sangan search. So I know it's sad losing the ring, but, like, I don't know, it feels kind of awkward. Warrior Lady going to get searched out. Warrior Lady probably coming down, banishing the set if it's Dawn. And it looks like it will be the Dawn. So do you banish there, actually? That's an interesting question that Jim Bob has to contemplate now. I probably... Okay, yeah. I was going to say I probably would, because I feel like there are so many ways to remove one Warrior Lady that, like, then the Dawn can get in and attack. So, but yeah, it does depend on his hand, as Janjo says, which we are not privy to. We're not privy to the hand. We're not privy to the set. And so we don't quite know. But both players are down to even amounts of cards here. Wagamuffin does have initiative to set there. They're going to MST that MST there from the end of the turn. And we're really going to come down, attack into that set monster. What will it be? It will be the Fiber Jar. So now we get the reset going on here. Everything gets reset back into the deck. Both players at pretty even life points, but Wagamuffin does get initiative next turn to attack in here. Of course, Jim Bob does have initiative to set back row right now, so they will be able to potentially do that. And yeah, this is going to get pretty interesting here. This match has been one for the ages. This has been such a good match. Oh my goodness. Oh, so good. But yeah, also, we got to keep in mind how much each player has banished here. So, Jim Bob has 5 things banished, 3 spies, a witch, and a DD Warrior Lady. Wagamuffin has the DD Warrior Ladies and, or 1 DD Warrior Lady, 1 Dawn, I think. Okay, hopefully it wouldn't mess up DB's sort of display too much, because sometimes when you check like Banish or Graveyard or something when something is resolving, it can be kind of weird. Comfy getting a first peek at that hand. You do drop down 1,000 here, which can be a bit of a downside, but it still is probably worth it just to rip apart that hand a little bit. Or just know what's coming, sort of play around that. They're taking a big long think Or not a long thing, but they're just taking a think, you know. I wouldn't call that a long thing, but. Okay, they're going to pitch the Rhoda, leaving a Yada, a Serpent, and a Lily. Wait. Oh, okay. The display got messed up. So they're not playing 2 Comfey. It's just the Comfey that was on field got sent to the graveyard. But yeah, things are weird here, you know. But they got a DD Warrior Lady, a Yada, a Serpent, and a Lily. I wonder why they didn't choose to send the Serpent. I would have sent the Lily because Lily's kind of tricky here, but like, I don't know. It's tricky. Yeah, Judge. They've got a Comfey on field and Comfey in grave. What's going on? It's DB being DB, you know. But Warrior Lady attacking in for 15. And yeah, Wyoming sent 1 passing back. So I feel like the back row's probably TT or something like that. Oh, pre-mat was drawn. Okay, that's pretty good. Raigeki dealing with that Warrior Lady, and then a Tribe coming down, attacking him for 16. And now Wagamon's in a tough spot, because now if they go for Injection Fairy Lily to attack into Tribe, then they're leaving themselves open, because they only have enough life points to pay for 1 Lily. So if they attack into Tribe, Jimbob goes down to 400 life points. But if Jimbob draws another card, they can just attack in. So yeah, Comfey Continuous Spell, the worst timeline. Every turn you can pay 1,000 life points, look at the opponent's hand, and rip a card from it. That would be wild. That would be a wild card. Lily is coming down, though, so they are going to attack in over the Tribe, or at least attempt to. So I'll go through, but Mirror Force will come down now. But I feel like you still go for that on the previous turn, just to bait it out. Even if you know your opponent has that sort of thing, I feel like it is just better to use it while you've got it. And the more you hold Lily in a low life point situation, the less likely you are to actually have it on later turns. But Ring going to get used here. So actually that would have been pretty crazy. It would have been exact lethal with Ring on the Lily after taking in Tribe. So I guess it would have worked out there potentially. But Jimbob setting 2, passing back. That Comfey just sticking around on field there. Yada coming down, but TT will stop the Yada. And Wybone setting 1, passing back. So we know that the last card in hand is Serpent. We don't know what that back row is, but Pog will help here if that's not an IO, and it's not an IO. So Jimbob will draw 2. Will they be enough to win the game here? Will they not? You probably go for it either way. Exiled Force coming down. That will be fine by Wagamuffin, attacking in for 1,000, but that's going to be met with a Mirror Force. So Mirror Force stopping that Exiled. Jimbob setting another, passing back to Wagamuffin here. Wagamuffin, I think you just summon out the Serpent if you don't have another monster. Attack in for 300, and it looks like they are indeed going to do that. Going for Serpent, attacking in for 3. Jimbob knows that Ring is gone from Wagamuffin, so you don't need to worry about that. Oh my goodness, this is very close, as Jancho says. Yeah, this is just intense games. And as a note, Wagamuffin has no back row to protect that Serpent, so if Jimbob did draw a monster there to attack in, then that would be over. But then Snatch Steal is there as well. Oh my goodness, this is just such a good game. Wow. Insane stuff. And that's not even the last game of the locals. Wagamuffin moving on to face off against Dump Truck here in the finals match. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was intense. Whew. Whew. Games like that are why I love Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just so good. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Intense. Let's see. Dump Truck versus Wagamuffin. They're already started. They're already diving in. Oh my goodness. I'm like shaking from that last game. That was insane. Oh my goodness. And now we're going in to this one here. Will this one be as intense? Will it be more intense? Who knows? Who can say? We'll just have to watch and find out. Well, I'm having T setting, passing back to Dump Truck here. Pot of Greed coming down, drawing 2. There they go. Dump Truck, 7 cards in hand. They gotta have something to do here. They're probably debating whether they want to get aggressive, play it passively, do all that stuff. Looks like they're going to L set and pass, sending 2 back row, playing around like an MST there. They can just snipe the 1 macro. Now there's actually a choice, and it looks like Wagamuffin is not going to take that choice if the back row is MST. If it's not, then it's probably fine, just still having this. Scientist coming down. Scientist is a pretty good card outside of FTKs as well. They're not going to use Prio here because there's no real point to that. If there's a TT in the back row, you've just paid 1,000 life points to basically do nothing. Science is now going to bring out probably a Ryu Senji, just to stop a TT or something. It looks like Ryu Senji will be the move there. And they're going to also pay another 1,000. Are they going to bring out Dark Balter potentially? They could bring out a Fiend Skull Dragon. Looks like they're going to bring out the Dark Balter though. And they're going to flip up a Dawn. So now the question is, does Dump Truck have a Spy? Spy would be brutal here. Looks like it is indeed the Spy. So all that life point paid for nothing. Yeah, that's why you potentially go Fiend Skull instead of Balter. If you're worried about the flip summon effect. But Balter does play around like Sangan and Witch a bit better. So, yeah. Bit of a greedy play there. I understand why they did it. But, yeah, it did come back to bite them a little bit. You can also clear one of those spies with the scientists in the end phase, or main phase 2 now, by going for Restrict, sucking up one, and then ending the turn. But that might just be a little bit too much life points that you're paying here. I don't quite know if Wagamuffin wants to do that or not. But, yeah, they are going to pay 1,000. Looks like they are going to suck up one of those spies and just get that off the field. But, again, if Fiend Skull had been gone for it, then you'd be able to just clear the field entirely. But, as is, now they've got a spy left. They're down 3,000 life points. And MSC is going to come for that back row as well, hitting a trap hole. So now there are no defenses here for that Scientist and for that Dawn. So, yeah, it's part of the reason why, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Scientist in this format. I'm also not really the biggest fan of it in Chaos format either. The thing with Scientist is, like, Scientist is very, very powerful as a toolbox to, like, clean up what your opponent's doing and insulate your own plays. The issue with it, though, is that this format's very aggressive. And so you wind up in these situations where you've used it to clear your opponent's field, but then they just summon out another monster and attack over it the following turn. So you've lost a fair amount of life points in both clearing the field and also just leaving the Scientist exposed to take damage. And now you're in a bad spot. So, like, and I think that's happened to Wagamuffin here. They're down to 2,500 life points, 3K paid for Scientist, and Dump Truck's just like, okay, I've still got enough resources, enough time to just beat you out, you know? And that's what's happening here. So, I'm not the biggest fan of Scientists personally in these lists. I understand why people play it. I'm just not, it's not for me, you know? But, yeah, very cool card overall, you know, for sure. But, yeah, I just don't see the vision in Vampire here. But the Graceful here is going to draw 3 pitch 2, including that Serpent that was added back to hand in the standby phase. Serpent just showing its value even more here. Pitching that Serpent, pitching a TT as well. Don't really need that when you got an established board, I guess. And Raigeki going to clear that set monster. Will that go through? It looks like, I don't know. Yeah, we'll go through. Okay, Wagamuffin scooping it up. Going on to game 2. So a bit shorter than the Jim Bobbers Wagamuffin first game there. But, yeah. Prada says, IDK if you play IRL B-Sox, but Scientist only has a rare print as its highest rarity. Needs a foil print. Yeah, and it's kind of wild because, like, Scientist is such a powerful card and looming card in the mind of the player base. But, yeah, it was not that rare. So, well, it was rare, but it was not rarer than rare, you know. So, yeah, it would be cool if it gets a foil print. It's just, like, the tricky thing is that I feel like it is iconic, so maybe it gets a foil print in one of the, like, collections that really focus on the game's history. But I feel like in terms of, like, reprinting for retro play, it doesn't show up in many retro formats that people actually play on a wide scale. So I'm not sure it's necessarily going to get a reprint anytime soon, which I can't sort of be too upset about. You know, they're reprinting things like Amaryllis and, like, other stuff like that, you know, are in formats that people play a little bit more. So, you know, I can't be upset when more people are getting reprints that they've desperately needed for a long time, that rather than just, like, the more niche parts of our community. But yeah, it would be cool if it got a bit of glam on it, you know. It's one of the most iconic cards in the game's history for a reason, so we should have something to reflect that, you know. And by reflect, I mean the shininess of the foil. But yeah, Time Limited Starter would be sick. I think that would be really cool. I think Konami should do something like that. I understand why they don't do something like that, but I do think that, like, we've seen that retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be, like, a very profitable thing for them. And so I think it would be cool if they did that sort of thing. I also think, like, and I don't know, maybe this is just a harebrained scheme of mine, but I think it would be cool to have, like, sort of alternate card arts, kind of like what they've done for Reinforcing the Army with different warrior archetypes. I think that's something that you could very easily do in just, like, having an Edison themed Reinforcing the Army, maybe showing off Dark Grepher or Stratos or something like that. and just having like these alternate artworks that like maybe people might not get, but like for the people who do like that sort of thing, that could be kind of cool. Um, but I mean, they do support some Time Wizard events. Like that's the thing. Like they've got like Ultimate Time Wizards that do go on. Sure, it doesn't get as much support as the main events, but like I think it would still be something. Um, yeah. Now that I bring up the Hero Rota, it might actually not get made because they've already got E-Call, which is kind of like Hero Rota, but I think it would be cool having Rota just with heroes on it. That'd be neat. But yeah, the cartoon art with like the baseball players for Rota, that's a fun one. Yeah, I think like alt art like that can be fun, right? And something that Magic Gathering's been doing for quite some time. I brought up Magic Gathering 2 times on stream already. If I call it a third time, then it'll be like Beetlejuice and like show up behind me. But I think that it's good to learn from what other games are doing as well, and try and like, simulate some things that work and don't do things that don't work. So using the IO here to stop the Mirage from discarding here instead of popping it with an MST. This also means that you'll be able to get it later next turn too, so that's pretty good. MTG from 0, I mean, that would be cool. Like, honestly, it's something that I considered doing when I was first, like, making a channel. But the thing is that, like, MTG has a lot worse manual simulators than Yu-Gi-Oh! Does. Like, Dueling Book is a godsend. It's so, so good. Whereas, like, MTG has, like, Cockatrice, I think, which Cockatrice is not really the best. And I'm definitely not doing, like, MTG Online, which is, like, you have to pay actual money to get the cards and things like that. So, yeah, no MTG from 0 for me. But it would be cool. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I try working with Cockatrice and doing some of that. The issue is also that I just don't have the time, right? Like, I've already had, like, very busy time the past couple weeks, which has been why I've not been, putting out as many videos as I have in the past. But, yeah, if I get more time, I might do it. But, yeah, Tabletop Simulator could do it, but I feel like that's kind of jank for, like, trading card games where, like, the nice thing about things like DB is that you scroll over a card. It's like, bam, card right there on the side, right? You can see which is the Black Forest, like, effect, all that stuff, very easily. Whereas, like, Tabletop Simulator, I feel like you'd have to, like, pick up the card individually and, like, look at it, and it's just kind of weird. But yeah, I'm just, exactly, Jan just said, I'm just hyping people up for 5Ds, building the suspense. People will be like, oh, what's going to happen with 5Ds? Ooh. But 5Ds is fun. 5Ds will also be interesting because it has a lot of formats people do not like a lot. But look, 5D is very nostalgic for me, right? Like, that's when I really started, like, I would, like, go to sneak peeks every set. I would, like, do all that stuff. It was a very fun, very, very fun time. And so I liked it a lot. And I had to have a lot of nostalgia. So it's going to be fun for me. Maybe not for other people, but, there's always going to be periods that I cover that people are going to have different reactions to. And, yeah. Damn. Jan just said he finished making the ArcV videos for the year, which is wild. Yeah, that's wild. You're much further along than I am, but like, yeah, ArcV was its own time period, and like after ArcV, things get like kind of crazy. Like, it honestly feels like modern Yu-Gi-Oh really started with Vrains, because Link monsters are such a big part of the modern identity of the game. But yeah, that's gonna be wild when we reach that on the channel here. So, yeah. Sneak peeks equals peak. Agreed, Prada. Such a fun time. There's the MST for that IO, so that we'll deal with that. And Dump Truck gonna get a search here for a Warrior Lady attacking him for 15. Not getting the Don Luke. Oh, they've got the Don Luke. Okay, that works too. Yeah, so they're just doing that to deck thin, I guess, a little bit. Last card in might be another Warrior Lady actually. But yeah, attacking him for 14, passing back to... This does lend credence to my idea that the last card in hand's another Warrior Lady. Now, Exile hadn't been used up, so... Kind of weird. I maybe would have set the Rota, honestly. Do they still do sneak peeks? I don't think they do. I could be wrong about that. If they do, I should start going to them. I think that'd be fun. But it's like, I feel like it's a lot tougher to do what they did at sneak peeks back in the day, where like sneak peeks back in the day, you'd get a bunch of the new pack, and then you make your own deck out of it. It'd just be like sealed, right? But I feel like modern packs are a lot worse in terms of a sealed environment. Just because like so much of modern packs are built upon very specific combos and supporting other specific combos. So it would make it kind of hard to do sealed in modern day, but it would be fun though. Portal Sentry sending back I think the Fiber Jar, I think I saw, but I don't know. I was focused on sneak peeks. I was lost in the days of yore, you know. Yeah, leaving a Sangan, a Graceful Charity, and a Warrior Lady. So yeah, I don't know why Dump Truck didn't set the Rhoda for the Mirage there. Maybe they were a bit worried about like MST or something, but okay, that's cool. Janjo the local still does sealed events sometimes, so but are they sneak peek events? That's the thing. I mean, sealed events in general are fun, so I think it's fine, but painful choice here. Gonna send a duo along with some other stuff. What are they gonna send? Duo Graceful. Oh yeah, it was Fiber Jar. Yep. Thank you, Prada. Duo Graceful Pot, Comfy, and one more. Please don't send Serpent. Okay, good. No Serpent sent. One of my pet peeves in these formats is when people like do a painful choice and they're like, oh, I'm just going to send a bunch of power cards and then a Serpent. And it's like, you don't want to do that because you're basically giving your opponent a free choice. Like, you want the painful choice to actually be painful, right? Especially in a format with Fiber Jar where you can get back these cards very easily later on. But yeah, getting that Comfy to rip apart the Graceful. Breaker coming down to attack over the Dawn. And gonna pop that Mirage as well. I don't even think you need to pop the Mirage. Didn't Dump Truck draw off it? So you're basically depriving Dump Truck. I don't know why they did that. I guess because next turn they'll be able to get back like more cards in hand with the Mirage. Yeah, Reborn here. Reborn big for a Dawn from there. Oh, that's a bit scary because Warrior Lady coming down as well. Attacking in to that Dawn, or to that Breaker. Banishing that. And, yeah. What are my 5 perfect painful choices, Janjo asks. Honestly, it really depends on the situation. That's the tricky thing about painful choice. And one of the things that makes it such a skill-intensive card is that there's no real one-size-fits-all solution. I will say, if it's early in the game, or even late in the game, and I still have like all my hand rips left in the deck, I often do just go for sending 3 hand rips and some other things, because you don't necessarily want to draw the hand rips in like a top deck scenario. And they're very good early game, a lot worse later game. So those are something that I often do. But sometimes I set up for like pre-mat or reborn plays, as Prada mentions. Sometimes I send like Jinzo into rotation if I've got to call the Haunted. There's a lot of different things. Sometimes I do send Serpent along with just 4 cards I don't want to draw, right? If I'm in a situation where I just want to deck thin my deck, and sending Serpent in 4 like cards that are just kind of not really good right now is also a possibility. But yeah, I mean, Hand Rips plus Pot of Greed plus Graceful Charity is a good set to send, as Prada mentioned as well. Personally, I don't send the Pot and Graceful in that arrangement because I like having them in deck for later. I will send things potentially like Jar of Greed, for instance, if I'm playing that in a deck, because Jar of Greed's a deck thinner anyways, so it doesn't really matter as much. I'll put a Sangan in rotation sometimes, because bring that back off like Reborn or Pre-Mat or Call is very good. But if you have a Moth access to that already, then like, yes, like that's a great send-off painful. But like, I think in general, I want to have Pot and Graceful in the deck just for like later top deck possibilities. But that's just me. And again, like, I'm not the most skilled player in these formats. I think I'm better than average just because many people do not play these formats, and I've played them a fair bit. So like the practice definitely helps. But it definitely is a very skill intensive thing, and different people, based on your play style, based on what you want to do, is going to change. And I don't think there's ever necessarily like the optimal 5 to send off painful at a given point. It's definitely the hardest card in the game to use. And I think that's what makes it so fun. Like, one of the things I like about Warrior format, and one of the things that Warrior format is going for it, which is the format basically right before GOAT, which has a slightly different ban list, is that painful is legal in it. And I know that a lot of people hate to play with things like that because it's like a very powerful card, but I think that it actually is a very skill intensive card. And I think that having power cards in the format that are skill intensive is generally good. You know, it's not a bad thing to have. But yeah. Yeah, my name actually stands for better somewhat over card. No, I was trying to make an interesting acronym there. I could not do it, but yeah, I think I'm decent. Like, the good thing is that, like, you know, if we're talking about in the context of YouTube, I feel like a lot of the times when you have a channel, people like it when like, oh, you know, what's your thing, right? Like, why should I watch you over other people? And if you're making coverage of like modern Yu-Gi-Oh and things like that, one of the things is like if you are a very, very good player, like if you're one of the best players in the world, like think about like Jesse Cotton, Joshua Smith, like Pack, all those people, right? Where like they're like at the top of the game, they're making videos and people are gonna watch them because they're very competitive videos, right? Um, but the nice thing about in the retro sphere is that like, you know, you can make a video even if you're not the best player out there. And this is from me like encouraging people to just try it out. Like if you are interested in these formats, make videos on them because as long as you have passion for the formats, as long as you're showing them off and showing something different from other people, you can sort of have your own niche for yourself, you know? You're not going to be like the most successful thing in the world, probably. Like, look at my channel. We're still less than 2K subs. But like, you know, you shouldn't be going into it for that reason anyways, right? You should be going into it for the love of the game. And I'm just saying that I think like if you're a decent player at least, showing off old gameplay and stuff like that can be a fun thing to do. But yeah, I'm going to say another. They're down to 400 life points, which is very scary for them. Dashut getting chained here. Ooh. MST getting chained to that, so that's going to pop the Mirage. Yeah, Dashut's going to be pretty good here. Send him back a card from hand, potentially. So their hand won't be entirely wiped out, but they will lose a monster, which does come up, you know. Let's see what they have in hand. What will they have? What will they do? You're going to send back this one. Very good choice. Oh, Breaker. Yeah, man, that makes sense. Yep. Breaker dealing with one of the backer the Wagmuffin has that maybe stops an aggressive push here. Leaving them with a Serpent and Mirror Force in a painful choice. Speaking of painful choice might be a good thing to go for here. Send 5 monsters, right? Try and end the game out, you know. That is a good option. So, yeah. Going to be in lurk mode. Got to get back to work. No worries, Janjo. I understand it's a Monday, right? Like, it's in the middle of the workday on a Monday for most people. Massachusetts, it's something called Patriots Day right now, which is, like, related to the Boston Marathon. So, we don't have to work. Yeah, but I understand that most people have stuff to do. So, no worries. Thanks for stopping by. And, yeah, this will be a very interesting one. I do think Dunbrecht's in a better spot to win here. But yeah, OCG from Zero ever a thing? For me personally, no. That's for a couple reasons. One, I think the TCG from Zero is gonna already take up too much of my time. And two, it's just like I'm not really attached to the OCG. I'm attached to the TCG because I grew up with it, and like I'm more interested in like what's going on stateside. I think it's fun to do, because it's related to me personally. So yeah, that's why I'm interested in it. But yeah, other people have OCG history things. Janjo has OCG history things. You know, Simo did like history of OCG for a little bit as well. Different people have done OCG videos out there. And so if you want that, you can watch that. But honestly, the big thing here, if you're interested in that sort of thing, I highly recommend making some content yourself, like trying it out, see if you like it. Or if you don't want to make content, just getting some friends together, being like, hey, you want to play old OCG formats and just go through them one by one. That's also something you can do, right? I definitely recommend that. I think a lot of people get caught up in like feel that they can't do something, but I feel like it's something that like it's just you gotta take the plunge, right? Everyone starts out making content that's kind of subpar, but then it eventually becomes something that's, you know, decent, right? Or at least you hope. But yeah, no, and I understand what you're saying, Prada. Like I wasn't saying that. I thought that you were saying that you didn't like the content that I'm doing already, but yeah, I'm just saying for me, it's not something that I'd be making. Hein KZ says OCG starts to differ after Chaos Format. Their card pool makes a big difference. Yeah, their card pool is definitely a big determiner. Also, like it's funny because like after Chaos Format and also before like the TCG even gets going, are very, very different as well because like, you know, back in the very, very earliest days of the OCG, you had like Exodia doing crazy things. You had different rule sets as well. So like there are a lot of things going on there. Which also like I'm not the biggest fan of like the early OCG formats. From what I've seen of them. Maybe if I play them a bunch, I'd have different thoughts on them. But like, yeah. Yeah, Sixth Sense and Crush Card definitely changes things around a bit in the OCG at that time period. Not getting Serpent, very good for Wagamuffin here. Wygamuffin's in a dangerous spot, though, because if they flip up any low attack point monster, then Dumptrick could just top something off the top and just win the game from that. But, yeah, it's definitely a tricky situation for Dumptrick to be in. But, yeah, I think that people also can enjoy both the TCG and OCG formats. Like, I'm not trying to exacerbate divisions between different people, but, you know, it is sort of its own game as well. Like, it's a different sort of thing than the TCG formats. There are some that are very similar, some that are very different. But the changes do make a difference, right? Like, I've seen people say, like, oh, you can just carry over exactly what the OCG did in this format to the TCG format of a similar time. Can't quite do that a lot of the time because the differences do actually come up in pretty major ways. So it is like its own thing, and I think it's a worthwhile thing for someone to do. But yeah, just not something that I'd be doing. This is a very, very cool sort of move here because Yada comes down trying to poke in for damage, and that will protect Wygamuffin as well because the Yada will return to hand. So even though it has low attack, it won't necessarily be vulnerable to things. But the Call to Honor does stop that, bring back the Witch there, which now is a bit of a threat. If Dumptrick draws another thing to attack into that set, that's going to be very good for them. DD Worthy would be great here, but it looks like they're just going to set 2, attack in case like Morphing Jar, I guess. But like, yeah, it's a bit iffy there. I feel like you don't necessarily have to play around Morphing Jar as much as Fiber Jar, but they're going to attack into the Fairy Lily there, which obviously Wygamuffin can't switch to attack because they don't have enough life points to pay for it, but it can be a decent wall. 1500 defense walls off against a fair bit of things. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. Change of Heart on the set. Seeing if it's a flip monster, I think that makes sense. What will it be? It'll be a Spy. Spy pretty good here, getting a defense for Wygamuffin if they've got it, but it looks like they do not. So either way, this deprived Dumptruck of some Spy defense here of their own. And the question is, do you attack into the Witch? I maybe would. Okay, well, you got Warrior Lady, so might as well do that. Yeah, that works out. Yeah, so Warrior Lady coming down to attack into that Witch there. Yeah, no Spy to do stuff with. That's why they shuffled the deck, I assume. But yeah, Warrior Lady attacking in to that Witch. Mirror Force is gone, so it has to be Saku there if you want to stop that. It looks like that will banish the Witch. Spy attacking in directly for 12. So this is sort of, you know, getting down for a little bit lower. But I think the win con for Wygamuffin might be deck out here. It's a bit tricky to say. It could also just be getting Dumptrick low enough to get a draw off of a Ring of Destruction. Snatch Steal is going to be very good here, taking control of that Lily and killing Wygamuffin here. Looks like that will indeed go through, so that's going to switch to attack now and attack in and try and take Wygamuffin's life here. Set card could be a Mirror Force, though. So Fairy Lily attacking in, and it looks like that will be the end of the game. So yeah, just a Snatch Steal of their own. Yeah, even if they had Snatch Steal the Spy, that would still be the end of the game here because Snatch on the Lily still gets over Spy. So yeah, great match indeed. I mean, we just seen some awesome Vampire format matches here. I'm really glad we were able to show these off because this was some great stuff here from all players involved. And yeah, great stuff. So Dumptrick wins another locals here. The classic. Dumptrick has won the most locals that we've had so far. But yeah, that's part of the fun of it. And now that we've reached the end of the locals, let's actually spin a wheel for the next locals. Let's do Wheel Decide. The locals, or this is the wheel that I use for my Wheel Wednesday videos, which I need to go back to making more of those. I was just very busy last week. But I've got all the different formats here. And I'll remove the formats that are after Teledat, after where we are right now. Or maybe I'll put Cat in as well. But yeah, great matches overall, as Prada says. And yeah, it's just some great stuff. I'll put in Cat just to have for the next week's local. And then I can also put in some just other ones like LOB or like those things. But I'll just put in Cat. I'll adjust the wheel for next week as well. LOD format. Yeah, we could do like, I'll add LOB, MRD, MRL, just all the random like set name formats that we have. Next up is LON format, I think. Or no, it was PSV, Pharaonic Servant. PSV. After Pharaonic Servant comes LON. After that comes PGD. No, Legacy of Destruction, LOD. This is a fun memory exercise for me at this point. PGD. And then we have, what is it? MFC. with scientists and all that stuff. DCR format. Then we have IOC format. I'll put Amsterdam here for the one person who enjoys Amsterdam format. Let's see what else. What else is out there with that I'm not thinking of? I guess Phantom. Phantom is on there. Do I have Phantom on the list already? I do have Phantom on the list already, so I don't need Phantom down here. Let's see what else. What else is out there to think about? Let me go to the YGO from Zero Discord server just on the side here. It's SDYK, like worm format. SDYK, mecha format, jar format. I'm forgetting all these unique formats that that we went through. Silly Snake as well. Silly Snake. Let's see here. For Clody, exactly. We got to get Amsterdam listed there for Clody. Anything else that we covered? Not really. Looks like those are the ones. Those are the ones. Okay. So, we are going to apply these wheel changes. Oh, it actually shows the text now. I guess we've gotten to the point where it can actually show that. And yeah, we're going to spin it up, and whatever the thing there that shows up is going to be what we play next week. So let's spin it, give it one click there, and we are going to be playing Reaper format. Reaper format's a fun time too. So Reaper format will be the next locals that we're going to be doing. So that'll be fun. And yeah, I'll just use this sort of wheel to spin and see what we play in the future. But I hope that you all enjoyed this stream as always. And yeah, it was a fun one. I liked it. Always fun to have another locals going on here. And yeah. Well, anyways, that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed as always, and look forward to my later videos on Teledad. I should have a video coming out hopefully tomorrow on Teledad. It should be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.